So we're going to explain the lighting plot so people from the rest of the class kind of have an idea about what's going on. Jerusha, take it away.
All right. So here we are in the BMA department. We're going to describe 3-point lighting. And we have a diagram on this whiteboard here. I'm going to describe the first light. But first, I want to kind of tell you what's going on here. This is your interview subject facing camera 1. Over on the right, you have your key light. This is going to be the main light that lights up your subject from the front. And I'm going to go ahead and write the word key here. Key light.
And now you're going to hand it off to other people.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and the second most important light is the fill light. This, what it does is soften the shadows. If you don't have this light, your subject will have like a dark shadow here, and it's gonna make it look kind of like creepy or like someone in prison or something like that, and you don't want that. So if you want the perfect face lighting, you need to put a fill light on this side, the opposite side. So the second one, the third one.
Last but not least, we have the backlight. So the backlight, basically, it allows you to drown out the background and focus on the main subject. So it drowns the background. And it is also directional. Drowns the background. So you can focus on the subject.
Very cool, very cool.
And then these last two lights here are practical lights, or lights that give atmosphere to your shot.
Very cool.
That can actually be an extra camera over here. If you don't have this kind of lighting, extra lighting, you can put a camera facing to the wall, and that will give kind of like same effect.
Do you mean a camera or a? Do you mean a light?
The light, a light, like background light, like here to the
Okay, cool.
to the wall.
Okay, so cool. Do you want to draw that in? A background light, a fourth light?
Reflectors too,
Sure.
right?
So
Like
it's
the
just if
flash
you
like
don't
that?
have this one, so instead you can use one light. Right here, it will be a background.
Background light. Very cool. Very cool.
So you have a backlight and you have a background light.
Yeah,
The background light is for aesthetics. The backlight is for separation of your background from your foreground.
Yes.
Very cool. I have one or two follow-up questions. Thank you very much. What is the primary function of the key light that Jerusha you put down there? That was totally right.
So the primary function of the key light is your main directional light on the face, to light up your subject, and it's going to be your pretty much your brightest light. And then this is going to be more like half of the key light, the fill light, and the backlight is going to be about the same. I forgot.
I think you have to go between half and 100, or
Yeah.
like, it'd be,
It's going to be around 75. So we got 100, half, 75.
Very cool. Very cool. Cool. Our last question for anybody, but Sebastian, you wrote backlight on it, which is totally right. What is another name of that light?
Rim
It
light.
has to do. Yes.
The rim light.
Cool. The rim light. Absolutely cool. Sometimes halo or creates a halo, but rim light is perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Now what about? Thank you very much. Cool. What about? So what about the power that we need? I think we have a resident expert coming in.
Yeah, I don't know if expert is the word. But I think I can explain it in simple terms.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
easy to understand.
Okay.
Like you explained it so simply. So I'll start with big picture, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the equation. So when you have power, you're always going to have a circuit breaker that's going to subdivide power and provide protection against fires and all that kind of stuff. This represents the circuit breaker that you see in your house. So you can go down to the basement if the lights turn off in the kitchen, and then you flip the switch and they turn back on. So that helps protect the circuit. So that's where you're going to find out how many amps per circuit are available to that circuit. We're going to use the example 20 amp circuits here. Now, how much power can I use on a 20 amp circuit before that switches and goes above, because the resistance changes and it get dangerous. So watts represent how much power you're drawing on the circuit. And then to figure out how many watts you can use on a 20 amp circuit, we have a couple equations to get to that answer. Now, the main variable you have to think about in America is how many volts are constant coming through an outlet on the wall. Now, it could go from 1 to 110, 110 being on the high side. We're going to do this calculation at 100 to leave us some headroom to be safe. Okay, so we're going to take the total volts that are constant, that are available coming to the outlet. So we'll call 100 volts of AC power. We're going to times the amps protection on the circuit, which is the current. So now we have 100 volts times 20 amps. That's going to give us our total watts power available on 100 volt current, 20 amps. That's going to give us 2,000 watts of power available before we trip that breaker. So you have a hair dryer. On the bottom of the hair dryer it says 15 watts. In our scenario with lights, let's say our lights each have 30 watt draws. We have 3 lights running 30 watts. That's 90 watts total. That leaves us 1,910 watts available for power still. Oh, okay, cool. So another way to do that is in the reverse. Is how many watts that we need to power, and then find out if we have enough power on our circuit available. So let's say we're using 10 of those 30 amp or 30 watt lights that we're using. That would be what, 300 watts. So 300 watts times our voltage, divided by our voltage coming out of the wall, which is constant AC power, will equal 3 amps. So we're only putting a 3 amp load on our circuit, which still leaves us 17 amps of headroom. So that's the way to calculate how much power is available. And if you're not sure, in America, 100 to 110 AC power is constant. If you're using the standard power, we're not talking about 4 and 5 phase power. You can go over to your breaker box at home, flip it open. There'll be a little label on your circuit breaker. It tells you how many amps the circuit is. You can run the equation. You can find out how many watts and available power is on every individual circuit in your house. But also, more importantly, for this example, when you're on production, so you know how much power is available and how much power you have.
Here's a traditional spotlight, and here's the power it takes.
500 watts. So that's a big one. So when you go on production sets, they have things that are called 4 and 5 phase power, which provide a lot more,
Exactly.
a lot more power for running big heavy lights. But this is basically what you're going to find at home: 15, 20 amp circuits. So that's the basics of how to calculate your power needs and the power that's available to you.